I'm just not going to delay my life for another decade because I messed up, right? There's got to be a way out of this. It's almost like I dug myself too deep into the hole,
Mm,
and the only way out was to keep digging and hit gold or hit oil
wow.
or whatever you want to call it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Hero Capital Raising Show. I'm your host, Tim Mai. And today I have a very special guest on the line with us, Mr. Joshua Ferrari. Josh is pretty young. He's still, are you still in your 20s, Josh?
Yep, 27.
27. Super young, very accomplished. Josh is the founder of Ferrari Capital and also a co-founder of Three Beach Capital. And Josh's background is in the aviation industry. And from there, he discovered real estate investing, fell in love with real estate investing. Within just 4 short years, Josh accumulated over $75 million asset under management, which is 874 units. And I don't know if these numbers even include some of the RV park community that I see you're doing right now. I see your post on Facebook. But Josh has raised over $27 million during that time as well, and has also have a mastermind group to teach other people on how to build their wealth through multifamily syndications, how to raise capital. And yeah, he also has his own podcast called Creative Capital, which now has over 2 million downloads. That's a lot of downloads. Great job there, Josh. Congratulations. And with that, everyone, let's give Josh a big welcome. Woohoo!
Not the same as when you're actually in a room.
I know.
Everyone's on
It's
mute, like they can't even see their face. They're like, woohoo!
yeah, they're doing the hoo-hoo on their end, I'm sure. I know I need one of those sound effect thing. I bought it, but I've never set it up. That's on my to-do list. So with that, Josh, if you can share with us a little bit about you and what got you interested in real estate, like what got you fall in love with that?
Yeah, you shared a lot of my story. First and foremost, Tim, nice to officially meet you. It's the first time I'm getting the chance to actually see you, aside from how long we've been following each other. Seems like someone.
Right.
Uh, Little setup here, capital raising. I like that you call it a party. It's pretty cool. It's nice to see the turnout that you guys have here. So appreciate you having me. So I started investing back in January of 2018. I was actually 21 at the time. I just turned 21. I just got married, just moved out of my
Mm,
parents' house from Tennessee to Southern Alabama to start what I thought was going to be a long-standing career as an aircraft technician. And then my dad called me up and told me that him and my mom are getting ready to start flipping houses. And it was one of those, if you can do it, I can do it conversations. So I never actually flipped a house, but that was the conversation that heavily got me interested into the industry. So almost immediately, my wife and I jumped into wholesaling. We tried that for about 6 months unsuccessfully, didn't get the chance to actually close anything. Realized I didn't want to wholesale anyway. I wanted to actually own real estate, get some passive income, like it seemed like so many folks were talking about. So we pivoted and bought a fourplex as our first actual investment with the intent to house hack it. And it didn't quite pan out the way that we wanted it to pan out, as it seems like a lot of investments do, when at least when you're first getting started. And we ended up losing about $60,000 on that deal. A lot of
dang, that's
lessons
tough.
learned. We tried to do everything by ourselves. We go on and on about that one. But the big two takeaways I say that I got from that was lack of clarity, which led to lack of focus. A lot of people in this industry have what thousands and thousands of people on social media post about all the time, which is shiny object syndrome. There's just all these millions and millions of different ways to make money in the business. And it's so easy to be like, oh, this asset class makes sense now. And this over here makes sense now. And this method of investing makes sense now. And I need to do the fund of funds, but now I need to be an LP, but now I need to be a GP, but now I need to do self-storage. But wait, RV parks are making money. Let's do that too. And you just find yourself not even having a lane, right? You're trying
Mm,
to figure out how to take off in a rocket going left and right 1,000 different ways. And then you never get anywhere. So that's basically what happened to me. And instead of going anywhere, I just crashed and burned and lost a bunch of money. So once we got really clear about what we wanted to do, this was now February of 2019 when we made the pivotal switch to focus on just syndications and just multifamily. So then I decided to get a mentor. So I never had that beforehand. And a lot of people told me that it was the best thing ever. And I was like, I just don't have any money, but just went into more debt to get the money to pay the mentor to do what I needed to do to learn because I had already lost so much money and so much time trying to do it on my own this other route. So once I was underneath him, that mentor that I got, I was underneath him for about 2 years. I learned a lot of what I know now in the business from that relationship. I met my two business partners during that time frame. We finally transacted on our first syndicated deal in December of 2020, which my mentor actually sold me. So talk about direct to seller, right? It's a great relationship. And then from then till now, you mentioned a lot of it. We've got about 900 units now, valued around 75 million, raised about $27 million of equity to be able to get here. We vertically integrated in 2022, started our own property management company. So we've got 12 full-time employees now between the PM company and the acquisitions company. We actually just bought another business that has nothing to do with real estate. It's a pecan business. More of a cash flow play, a little side gig thing in a way, but it also comes with 8 to 9 acres of real estate on an extremely busy
Nice.
intersection. So we're considering either leasing or just selling it outright. The previous owner that we bought it from sold 1 acre of land for $1 million on the intersection. So
Wow.
I sell 8 acres for $8 million, and I only spent $1 million to buy all the land and the business. That's a
Nice.
win there. So we'll see how that pans out. But aside from that, I have the podcast you mentioned, Creative Capital, that we launched in April of 2020. So it's been running a little over 4 years. I've enjoyed thoroughly being on that because it gives me the chance to get to talk to folks like yourself, Tim, and a lot of other really successful folks, and learn some of the other creative strategies that folks have used to actually not only raise cash, but you source deals and take them down, manage deals, different investment structures, all kinds of things. And then the mastermind you mentioned briefly, we launched in the summer of 2022 as well, with the intent to create the same relationship structure that I had with my mentor when I first got started. So a very personal relationship. It's a very customized program. We work one-on-one with all of our clients. It's a small group. We've helped a total of about 100 people at any given time. We have around 60 to 65 active students, and they've closed almost 1,500 units now. Got another 1,200 under contract. They've raised over $80 million of equity. They've done some incredible things. It's been pretty cool to watch. So
Very
that is what I'm
awesome.
up to in the last 6 years.
That's phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you didn't quit after losing that 60 grand on your first deal, right? Because a lot of people would have quit. What was it that have you go all in versus so you know what? This real estate doesn't work for me and I'm gonna go back to do what I was doing.
That's a good question. I think one part of it was I've never had golden handcuffs. So I was young, getting started in this business. So I wasn't making a lot of money in a very beginner level career path, pay wise and everything. I was probably making 50, $60,000 a year. Not really enough to move the needle consistently to be able to pay down a $60,000 deficit. I realized it was probably going to take over a decade to pay off all of that. That was going to be a decade of my wife and I unable to have any kids because we couldn't afford it, unable to
Mm,
buy a house because we couldn't afford it, unable to go on any decent vacation because we couldn't afford it, unable to do basic things that a lot of folks got the chance to do, especially with this day and age of social media. You follow all your old high school, college friends, and any new connections and people that you meet along the way, and then they're all doing the same thing in your general age bracket, going on vacations, getting married, buying houses, doing all these incredible things. And I'm like, I'm just not going to delay my life for another decade because I messed up, right? There's got to be a way out of this. It's almost like I dug myself too deep into the hole,
mm,
and the only way out was to keep digging and hit gold or hit oil
wow.
or whatever you want to call it.
I
So,
love that. Yeah, I love that. And that's a really great perspective to look from as well. It's, you know what? I'm already this deep in. Like the only way out is to dig it all the way through and hit gold, like you said. That's awesome. Now, you recently had your second baby, is that correct? If I remember correctly?
yep, 6 days
Okay.
ago,
6 days ago.
had our second
Congratulations.
kid.
But yeah. Well,
Dude.
yeah, in another month we get to celebrate being a two-time dad.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, so you got into multifamily, got a mentor, got into multifamily. Share with us your journey, what your first deal was like, and then did you start raising capital and starting with that first deal?
Yes. So my capital raising journey has been interesting because, like most of us, probably, I didn't have a previous background or connections of really wealthy people. None of my family really came from a whole lot of wealth. The side of the family that does come from, and it's not like they came from wealth, but they are wealthy. they didn't want to invest with me. So I still didn't really have any connections or anyone that wanted to, so to say. So I really had to extend my reach to the outer circle, to social media, to other investors that would give me a shot. So a lot of folks, when they first come to us and they want to learn more about how to raise cash, everyone's main concern is like, I've never done it before and I don't know anyone with money. So how am I going to be able to go out and raise money? So the first time I ever raised money was actually through this unique challenge that my mentor had put together. And it allowed me to take his little step-by-step guide. He called it a challenge because it was challenging me to go out and do what I needed to do to raise some money. But it's this little daily task of something to do once a day for 30 days. He gave me like the framework behind the system and machine that he'd built to be able to raise the money. And after taking daily action for 30 days, I raised about $6 million of soft commits my first 30 days ever trying.
Wow.
So it sounds amazing, right? You're like, holy crap, that's a lot of money. How on earth did you do that? But at the same time, it was soft commits. So talk is cheap, right? People tell you they got money, but wait till you actually need the money. So I did that first. That was actually the first thing I did before we got a deal. And then 2 months later, we finally had our first deal under contract, which again came from the mentor. And I went hard and heavy back at the same people that told me they wanted to give me money. And I was able to raise about 500,000 from the $6 million of commitments, literally just 2 months later. People being like, hey, the timing's not right. And I just put my money elsewhere. You should have contacted me last month, all this stuff. And I was like, okay, it's frustrating, but hey, $500,000, pretty good for my first time ever trying. Coming off
Right.
the cusp of not only never being able to actually make any money in real estate, but our first attempt at making money. But all that to say, we weren't able to finish the race. I personally wasn't able to finish the race, just myself. And I had a business partner already. It was me and my business partner, Reggie. And he had exhausted all his investors and was unable to bring any new cash in. So I went back to my mentor actually and asked him if he would be willing to jump in and be like, hey, I got a proposition for you. Tell you what, you come in, you raise this last $150,000 that we need. I'll help you close your own deal. Your investors win. Like everybody wins, right? And he was like, let me think about it. He thought about it. He didn't feel like it was ethically right to be on both sides of the transaction. So he just connected me with my now third business partner. And the three of us have been business partners ever since, done everything we needed. So connecting with Matt, he raised about $700,000 in 2 weeks and we only needed 150. So I was like, there's something here. This guy obviously knows what he's doing. He's going to be able to help us out. And again, the three of us have done every deal we've ever done together ever since. So that first deal was a 42 unit. It was local to the market that I lived in. Originally not from, but was living in Southern Alabama and Mobile. There's a little town called Citronelle, pretty tertiary, but that was our first slice of success. Finally getting to not only get it actually under contract, knowing we had submitted a ton of offers previously, but finally getting to be able to close it because 2 hurricanes came through while we had the property under contract. Then we had to go through insurance. Like a lot happened, but we got it closed.
Very cool. I love that story. So we're gonna dig into the different aspects of that story because a lot of my misconception where before coming to this industry is whenever I'm thinking about having to raise all these capital, I think that I have to raise it all myself. And yeah, it wasn't until I get into this industry, I interview a bunch of people that I realized, oh wow, it's a very teamwork kind of game where yeah, like someone who raised $100 million didn't necessarily did it all themselves. They have a lot of other partners and yeah, and fund managers that help them as a part of that race as well. So we're gonna dig into that. Your your initial conversation when you got the $6 million soft commit with you never made money in real estate before, have zero track record. What was that conversation like? Like, how did you approach them?
Yeah. It was a very personal conversation. To be honest with you, some of those conversations led to more than one, right? Some people didn't necessarily commit on the first call, like the sales cycle of just
Hmm.
communicating with people and building rapport and building relationships. So it was just that. It was me trying to get to know a little bit more about them getting to know a little bit about us and what it is that we do and what it is that we provide. And then just being open and honest about trying to have them be open and honest about the situation they find themselves in, the goals that they're looking to achieve. Because not every passive investor is going to be good for your deal. Some people
Hmm.
say they might have 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand, they might have whatever they have, but they want to double their money in 6 months. And you're like, a multifamily syndication is not really for you. Yeah, I don't even know that you're going to be able to double it in 6 months if you did another asset class. But if you just want a really quick, less than a year turnaround on your money, you're probably going to want to put it into something like a flip or some other type of real estate investment. So I might not be the best sponsor for you, but I know some people that I can recommend and connect them that way. So not everyone's a good fit. So understanding what it is that they actually want helped me better actually pitch what it is that I had and or not pitch it. Like I truly would almost end the call after realizing that I'm maybe not a good fit for them. So great getting to know you. Thanks so much for jumping on this call with me today. However, if you're really looking to get your money back in a 6 to 12 month time frame, that's just not something that we do. That's not our business plan. That's not our business model. So because of that, I won't be able to be your sponsor, but I can connect you with someone that can. So there was very open and honest conversations from that perspective. And then it was also open and honest about my personal experience. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. That is the biggest fear, as I feel like that's probably why it's a question. That's the biggest fear that a lot of people have. I have no experience. I've never done this before. I've never made a bunch of
Hmm.
money, never bought $1 million asset. Why would anyone want to give me their money? I didn't actually have a lot of people ask me that question. Not a lot of people really get on the call with you and they're like, have you ever done this before? Like, how much experience do you have? How many deals have you bought? And I'm not saying it's not a question that you won't get, because it definitely is. Depends on how sophisticated the actual investor is. But if this is a more, I call them like baseline investors, right? They've got 25, $50,000. They don't have a ton of money, but they've worked hard. They've saved up the money. They've enjoyed real estate for a while. Maybe they've already done a couple of LP deals, just looking to get into another one or try you out, test the waters out. Most of them pretty much already know that you've never done a deal, knowing that you're coming into the industry. Not many people actually just flat out ask me, like, how much experience do you have? What have you done prior to this? And of course, if they did, I'd be open and honest about it, but it's not necessarily information that you just blab out of your mouth as soon as you get on the call. Hey, so happy to meet you. Just want to let you know I lost 60 grand on the first deal I ever did. I've never bought a big deal before, and I really need you to give me this 50 grand so we can buy this multi-million-dollar deal. But again, you're not like being shady and hiding anything either. You're just trying to build as much rapport as possible. And oftentimes people will just really like you, really like the conversation that they're having, like what it is that you're providing, whatever kind of deal or business model that you pitch. And then from there, that's, in my experience, been how they've made the decision on whether or not to actually invest with you. The deal itself is usually about 10% of the decision-making process.
Hmm.
They're like, yep, I like the deal. I like the returns. That's why we're investing. But a great deal done by a terrible sponsor is not a good deal. And a bad deal done by an excellent sponsor could be a pretty mediocre deal or a pretty
Hmm.
decent deal. So you want the quality individual, which is usually what they're looking for. So another thing that I did when people did ask what was my experience level, had I ever done this before? You be honest about it. No, I've never done this before. I've been in real estate for whatever it had been at that point, 2 years or something like that. I bought this fourplex. At the time I was currently living in the fourplex. We're house hacking it. I've never bought a large asset, but I'm connected with others that are. One of my business partners has been in the business for 10 years. He's got the XYZ experience. And then I've also got a mentor that is basically helping walk through this entire process with me. He's got over 15, 20 years of experience. He owns over 5,000 doors. He's got just basically borrow credibility from
Yeah.
other people that you're directly connected to. And it has to be closely connected to. Don't start dropping names of people that you don't even have their number and you could never actually connect. Oh, I know Brandon Turner. He's my best friend. People are like, oh, that's awesome. And then you try to, can I talk to him? And you're like, no, I don't have his number. I have no way of contacting him, and he's not even going to know who I am. So drop a name of someone that's comfortable with you dropping their name and of someone with legitimate credibility, because it doesn't behoove you a whole lot if you start dropping names of people that folks don't know. Uh,
Right.
but borrowing credibility was a great way that helped me initially break in.
Yeah, that's why, especially if it's your first deal, having partners that have that credibility carries a lot of weight to help you with your first raise. In terms of the type of investors that you went after, that very initial $6 million soft commit. Who were they? Were they friends and family? Were they off of social media? What type of investors were they, and where did you find them?
So they were 100% from social media. Social media
Oh,
is probably what raised 95% of the 27 million that we have to date. That was the purpose of the challenge, was to use social media to expand your network and get your name out there to start raising some more cash. Keep in mind, when all this happened, this was when the market was hot. Could it be repeated? Maybe, but it's going to be a lot more difficult in where we find ourselves today. But it was all from social media. They were all, maybe not all, but I'd say probably 85% of them were just regular individuals, mom and pop type folk that had 50, 100, maybe $200,000. They worked a really great job. I didn't really target a specific niche, and maybe that was to my detriment. I don't know. Some people are like really niche down, focus on only doctors or only lawyers or only football players or whatever. Like I didn't really do that. I just remained authentic to myself, as my branding and marketing was just authentically me. And so I just naturally attracted who I naturally attracted, which wasn't always doctors and lawyers and pilots. And I used to be an aircraft technician, so I could connect well with the aviation sector, but it wasn't always pilots. It was a variety of people for sure, from a variety of different walks of life. And that's what ended up working for me. Now, another thing that was a big needle mover for my ability to raise a significant amount of that money, literally half of that money from a soft commitment perspective, came from one investor. So referrals was a big thing that I didn't start doing until day 11, because that was like the training that he sent me to review on that day. Is make sure you're always asking for referrals. I'm like, crap, how many conversations have I had the past 11 days? I hadn't even been asking. So I started asking that on every call that I had. And I got on this one call with the guy. He had 50 grand. He was an inspector for residential homes. He'd been following me for a while, liked what I was doing, and was interested in potentially investing should we find the right deal. Giving him an example investment of what one would look like when one comes around. And then at the end of the call, I asked him for a referral. Hey, man, is there anyone else that you think you might know that might also be interested in an opportunity like what we've talked about today? And maybe they say no, whatever, right? That's the worst thing they can say is no, they don't know anyone. But if they say yes, it's an opportunity to get a warm introduction to someone that might change your life. So that's what happened. He said he knew someone, some dude that was in the oil and gas business. And I was like, wonder if he's got a bunch of money if he's in the oil and gas business. He did, turns out he did have a bunch of money. So he connected us via email, just a three-way email. I reached out to him. From that, we set up a time to chat. It was just a Zoom call like this. And at the end of the call, the guy had $3 million of liquid capital that he was willing to invest and needed to put
wow.
somewhere. I need to put it somewhere in the next 30 to 60 days. So I'm like, I don't have a deal right now, but I promise you, when I find one, you're the first one I'm coming to. So we didn't end up getting the deal under contract till after 60 days. So I went back to him anyway, and he was like, oh, we've already deployed the money. But he has since invested with us post that, when the timing was right and he had money and things made sense. But that one question of asking for a referral led to a guy that had a significant amount of equity. And then that relationship, if I nurture it and I build the rapport there and I take care of him and he invests with us and we do right by him, anyone with that level of just play money has and knows other people with the same thing. So referrals and connections just continue to expound on top of each other as long as you're taking care of your investors, and you never know who that individual might be. I had a conversation with a guy one time. I didn't even know that he had much of any money. I knew he had something because he was talking, saying he wanted to invest. He invested $50,000 in our first deal. And I'm thinking he's just Joe Blow. He's got 50 grand, not a ton of money, but he's got a little bit. And then 6 months goes by and he's like, hey, I like what you're doing, man. I want to invest into another deal. You got another deal? I'm like, matter of fact, we do. So we had another one and he gave us 200 on the next one. And I'm like, oh, this guy's got a little bit more money than I thought. And then 8 months goes by. He likes that deal so much. He decides to invest in another deal with us again, which was actually the RV park. And he put like 1.5 million in that deal. I'm like,
Wow.
gosh, I didn't even know you had this kind of money. He's, yeah, I don't normally disclose that on the first call. And I'm like, I get it, but nurture those relationships. You never know where they might go.
I love that story. So, yeah, you mentioned most of your deals you raised through social media and referrals, obviously. Was it like from people following you on your profile, your page, or was it in other real estate groups that you prospect in that,
It's a good
and
question.
I want to focus, for the sake of this question, I want to focus in on that first $6 million self commit. And then we'll talk about how you're doing it now. But during that time, was it mostly in the groups or where were they coming from within the social media?
So I was really fresh on the social media side of the house anyway. I didn't have a big follower base. Matter of
Hmm.
fact, I don't even think I had a LinkedIn at all. I had never had a Twitter or X or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
Never really had an Instagram. The only thing I ever had was Facebook. I think I had about 1,000 friends or something like that at the time. College friends, high school friends, folks I went to church with, that kind of thing. And I didn't really know if any of them had any money, but I was going to do what I was going to do. And I was going to try this little social media challenge out anyway. So honestly, I just did it based on the folks that were already following me, those that were already in the inner circle. And I say inner circle very loosely because no one's really in your inner circle on social media, at least not most people. They just watch you from afar. There's definitely
Hmm.
some lurkers. You'll be surprised how long they lurk before they decide to suddenly reach out and have a ton of money that they want to give you. But anyway, a lot of that was folks that I was gaining traction with as I was starting to build my online presence. I had maybe been posting fairly regularly for 3 months up to that point by the time I actually
Okay.
started blasting this challenge out. And I didn't do anything in any groups because I wasn't a part of any groups aside from my local real estate investor meetups. But I communicated that they were all following me. All the people that I at least had somewhat of a relationship with were already following my personal page. And so I didn't actually post on the local real estate pages because a lot of them didn't allow solicitation anyway.
Really good. That's impressive for someone who's starting new, didn't have 1,000 Facebook friends is, you know, relatively small to have that much traction. That's really awesome. So during that time, it was just Facebook, it's not even LinkedIn yet at that time. Is that correct?
That's correct. I
Right.
think I was slowly starting to build LinkedIn, but I
Hmm.
wasn't like I just created the profile. So you've
Right.
got no
Okay.
friends, no connections. You're fresh.
Very cool. All right. So let's fast forward a little bit. Now, in terms of social media, which platform are you most active in now? Which one I guess, from when you first raised money for that first deal to now, which platform has been your favorite to generate investor leads?
LinkedIn's been my personal favorite. We still get a lot from Facebook. So LinkedIn and Facebook are the two that I focus most of my effort on.
Hmm.
Not to say that you can't raise money on the other platforms, because there's a ton of people that have proved that is the case. Like Brandon Turner's got 400,000 followers on Instagram. He raises a ton of money there. I've heard of some folks literally raising over $200 million in a 30-day time span, their first time ever trying on TikTok. Like
Holy
TikTok,
cow.
you can get big follower base. Like there's a lot of platforms out there that you can raise a ton of money on. You just got to pick what works for you and where your target audience is going to be. But then the last key data point that I really look at to determine what platform I'm going to be on is what platform am I going to be consistent with? So like with Instagram, you always have to post a photo or a video or a reel or something. And I don't always have a photo to post. I like taking pictures, videos, whatever, but I'm not the guy that's going to sit back and edit 1,000 videos and make these little short reels to post every single day and add them to the story and add it like that's just not me. So I'm like, if I start on Instagram, I'm not going to be as consistent with it as I need to be able to grow it to the level that I want it to go. So I'm just not going to focus my effort and energy there. I'm going to focus my effort and energy where I know I'm going to be consistent, which for me has always been Facebook and LinkedIn, because you don't always have to post a photo or a picture. You can do a poll or a variety of other options on those platforms. So those are just the ones that I've chosen to grow on. Now I think we've got 5,200 or 5,500 connections or followers or whatever it is on Facebook, since they like cap you out at 5,000.
Hmm.
I think we have 16,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I'd say I've probably raised the majority of the money on LinkedIn
Oh,
because
wow.
it's a more business centric platform that I found. Now, I have had friends and family and folks like that come and find out about me through places like Facebook, but the folks that have given me like big bucks have all
Hmm.
came from LinkedIn.
Very good. And on LinkedIn, have you started to narrow in your avatar at all, or is still more general based on their attraction to your post?
Yeah. So I'm trying to narrow in the brand as opposed to narrowing in the avatar. So the brand will then attract the avatar based on the marketing that comes from the branding. So branding and marketing is definitely key to being able to raise any significant level of capital at all in this industry. If people don't know you, they can't like you, and they definitely can't trust you. So it has to go in that order. And so branding and marketing is the key to get folks to do all three. So our branding and marketing on social media specifically being literally just not just the actual content that we post, but like the way that we post it, the way we approach the post, what we say in the actual post, whether or not we're an individual that likes to consistently post photos. And if we like to post photos, what do we usually like to post photos of? Are you the guy that always posts like a selfie of you drinking coffee at your desk? No, that's not me. Or are you the guy that always takes a selfie hanging out with the family or walking the dog or playing with the kids? Or are you always out on the boat because you live in Florida and you want to enjoy the weather? Or are you always out in your pool in your backyard? Or what are you? And then do you want to always post that very same thing? Or do you have a variety of things that you post? Do you mix in real estate and you mix in personal life? Are you all personal? Are you all real estate, all business? So I'm trying to narrow in exactly what it is that we post consistently. And of course, that's just ever evolving. As your business changes, as the times change, right? You know, back in the day, people were posting that you could double your money in 3 years, 2 years, 12 months, and we could deliver all these great IRRs and all these great returns. And if anyone posts that now, they're just an idiot because it's not
Yeah.
possible. So you don't post things like that anymore. You don't post what doesn't work anymore. You got to stay up with the times and seeing what does work. Like when reels and shorts came into play, folks really started seeing that all of America has squirrel brain, right? You can't pay attention for any more than 5 to 10 seconds. So if you're going to post something that people can get through in 5, 10, 15 seconds, that they can get all the information and data that they need from it quickly, and that it's actually valuable content. That's another thing people say. You got to add value. What does that mean? You got to figure out what that means to you and what that means to your audience. And for most of us trying to raise money, what that means is a value add to the audience is you providing the service of the kinds of deals that you provide, kinds of deals that you find. So you mentioned briefly, we bought an RV park. That was not our most recent acquisition. The business was the most recent acquisition, but the one right before that was an RV park. We really liked that asset class. We really liked that niche. So I'm not saying we've entirely pivoted our business model to no longer doing multifamily and only focusing on RV parks. We have focused a lot more effort and attention on the RV space. You've probably seen a lot more posts about what we're doing in the RV industry, what's working for us, what's not. Some of those educational posts not only helps other active investors, but it proves that you know what you're talking about when it comes to your business and the asset class that you've chosen, and it helps people understand your business model. And a lot of times it's attracted more passive investors to be interested in what we're doing. Simply just being authentic and open, honest about the deals that we are doing and the returns that they're providing or the failures that happen with the deal. Hey, we bought this deal and this was what we initially wanted to do, but here's what happened. And it didn't work out like we thought it was going to work out. So here's what we're doing now. You know, here's what we changed.
I
So
love
I
that.
don't know if that answers the question. I feel like I've been on a long rabbit trail.
No, that's really good. So when you're talking about branding, especially in the beginning, people don't really know your brand as in terms of like your company's name. Did you brand it around the asset instead? Like right now, you're branding your brand around RV parks. So previously, did you brand it more around multifamily? Expand on the word branding a little bit more because, yeah.
I always like to say the branding is because
Mm.
it goes back to the sponsor anyway. You're the person that they're going to invest with. As a syndicator, your clientele, your customer, whatever you want to call it, the person that's going to buy your services, buy your product, that's going to help you make money is your passive investor. And so that being your clientele, you've got to target everything that you do towards those people. And if 90% of the solution is them trusting you and knowing you and liking you and wanting to be a part of what it is that you're doing, then those are the things that you have to build on your platforms. Those are the kinds of relationships that you have to build. And you want to be focusing what you say, how you say it, where you say it, even when you say it. So you might post something at 7 a.m. in the morning when you first wake up because you woke up early and you created your social media post and you're stoked about it and you thought it was the best post ever. And then 3 hours later, 4 hours later, starts rolling around to lunchtime and you're like, dang, I only got 3 likes and one comment from my grandma. I guess the post didn't do as great as I thought it was going to. It's because you posted it at 7 a.m. Who's on social media at 7 a.m.? Most people are driving to work, listening to a podcast, or on the phone, or hanging out with their kids, or dropping their kids off at school. You posted it at the wrong time. First 30 to 60 minutes of a post are the most important time frame for that post. As much engagement as you can get in that time frame, the algorithm will like it and it'll boost it. It'll continue to send it out to more people, both in your inner circle, and then on platforms like LinkedIn, it'll send it out to people that aren't even in on your friends list.
So what time during the day have you found to be most effective?
So my sweet spot has always been 9 to 11, 11:30, and I'm on Eastern time. So that's
Okay.
just the time in which I decide to post it in. So if you find that a lot of your follower base is Central Time or Mountain Time or Pacific Time or whatever, you can adjust accordingly. A lot of times
Yeah.
it just so happens to be the generalized area that you live in, since a lot of your connections might be local. But for me personally, that's what I found to be the sweet spot. That's when a lot of people seem to be on the platform. It's as soon as you get to work, instead of they clock in and what do? Get on social media. They don't work. So bam, they're on social media liking your stuff, commenting on your stuff. And then now you're getting some exposure and some growth there. I've played around with posting at other time frames and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a hit or miss.
Yeah.
On the weekends, it's usually closer to like noon to 1 p.m. has been the sweet spot. But I also don't usually like to post on the weekends because I try to make a pact to me and my family that I'm just going to spend time with the family, which means no social media, no calls, no work. Let's just enjoy each other. Plus, I never felt like I got significant levels of engagement on the weekend anyway. More comes through the work week.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah. A lot of time on Facebook, on LinkedIn, we don't see the impact of how the algorithm works as much. So recently I started a brand new YouTube channel that's all AI generated content. It's my AI voice, all of that stuff. Just wanted to test it out. And it is so sensitive. The algorithm is so sensitive to how you title, how you do your thumbnail. Yeah, so I was just testing this out for our event that just happened in Dallas. So my first post was on May 1st. We and my team has been posting one video per weekday. So it's in the last 2 weeks, I think we posted around 12 videos or something like that. And very quickly, three of them gone somewhat viral. One of them had over 10,000 views. Another one, two other ones have over 5,000 views. And then those other are climbing up here pretty quickly. But it was so interesting because I get to see is like this whole thing about how the algorithm works is really true. Because here's a brand new channel. Nobody knew me. And it's not even me. Like it's not even and so it's all purely based on how the algorithm works. And so yeah, like now I can appreciate what that means to post at a certain time and yeah I get to watch that now on the YouTube side, so I'm just really excited. I'm really excited to further test that where we'll be in a year from now, but yeah, LinkedIn has been working really well for you. It posting between 9 to 11:30 Eastern been working well for you. Just personal branding, it sounds like you do a lot of that, whether it's talking about your newborn, talking about the RV park, the projects that you do. That's the other thing also catch as you're talking. It sounds like you do post a lot around your projects. And that also help attract people see that, oh, yeah, he's out here doing deals. So if I'm looking for investment opportunity, here's someone that's a doer that I want to associate myself with and potentially invest with, partner with, right? For the people who haven't done any deals, how can they do more of that kind of story with, yeah, what do you teach your students to do around that?
You're saying how can they basically raise more money, build their online presence, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, without, especially in today's market. In today's market, you're brand new into the business, you don't have a track record, you don't have any deals you're working on, you don't have a social media following. How would you do
Right.
it now?
Be the individual that is unique in a way that people want to pay attention to you. And that's extremely vague. So let me try to break that down. So don't be the guy that's, I don't know, in the circus or something doing some crazy, ridiculous things that are cool temporarily, but then no one cares about them. Be unique in maybe the way that you even provide your model in the execution structure that you've chosen through syndication to do a deal. So it's, hey, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm still multifamily. I'm still Southeast. I'm still all these things, but hey, we don't hold for just 3 to 5 years. Like we don't sell every 3 to 5 years. Now we hold for 20 to 30 years. And people are like, oh, that's a long flipping hold. Why do you hold that? I don't want to be illiquid for 20 to 30 years. And rest easy knowing that we'll liquidate all the cash you've given us through a refi by the end of the third year.
Mm.
And then I'm not going to kick you out of the deal. A lot of sponsors do. I'm going to let you stay in the deal. I'm going to let you benefit from all the cash flow. I'm going to benefit too. I'm then going to take 70% of the deal. You're going to have 30%, and we're all going to cash flow for life. You're going to keep your equity. You're going to get all the tax benefits plus cash flows. It's like generational true wealth. And we created that model when on the third deal we ever did, we created that model. And that's been a huge differentiating factor of like our ability to stand out in the space. Not because I'm the most genius guy and I'm smarter than Elon Musk and I'm smarter than all these other people. Simply just due to the fact that I reinvented the wheel. We call it our outlaw of normal, right? We did something just a little bit differently, just one thing a little bit differently that makes more sense for us, helps us actually achieve the goals that we wanted. Because passive income is what a lot of people say that they want, but they're buying and selling every 3 to 5 years. A lot of that's not very passive. And I was like, I want a lot more passive income. How do I do that? You need to hold on for longer term. Once the asset's stabilized after year three, really not a lot of work left to be done anyway. So it's more of a passive investment at that point, and you make a lot more money once you take 70% of the deal. So it made more sense for us. My big concern was that a lot of investors wouldn't like that because we take 70% of the deal, and people are like, dude, why would I give away seven? Like, this doesn't make any sense. But I actually found out after testing the marketplace that a lot of people really loved that model. They love the long-term ability to put their money somewhere and then not ever have to think about it again because it's almost all tax-free income. Since it's a refi, not a sale, it's a tax-free event. So you get all your money back, but you weren't taxed on any of it. Plus, you got your returns while we were holding the money, whatever the prep was that we were giving you. It's usually around 10%. And then after that, you get cash flow for life, and then you have all your depreciation benefits, which offsets the income that you get from that cash flow. So all of it's really tax-free. The only thing you really got to think about is when I give you the money back, what are you going to do with it? So a lot of times people are like, I still don't want to think about it. So I'm just going to give the money back to you, and you can put it into another deal, and we'll just keep this going. So I would say if you're out there just getting started, you got to think about what you want. You got to get clarity. That was mistake number one I made with the fourplex. Get clarity about what you want. You got to build the blueprint, or you can't build the skyscraper. And then once you've done that, try to think of one or two very unique, creative ways that you can be different. And don't overthink it and be like, I can't go do a deal and I can't do this and I can't even breathe again until I get an answer to what this uniqueness is. Uniqueness could be extremely simple. It could be the way that you communicate with your investors. It could be the way that you choose to post. It could be maybe you're just the guy that is doing the same 3 to 5 year deals that everybody else is doing because that's what you want to do, but you're freaking hilarious. You're like the professional comedian, and all your videos and posts are hysterical. People get a great kick out of that, and they're like, "This guy's awesome. I want to follow this guy because I'm always laughing every time I see his posts." Or maybe you're extremely authentic and genuine, and you post a lot of failures. Some people are like, "Wow." Most people aren't posting their failures to this capacity. This guy just lost $1 million and he's being open and honest with me about it. This guy just went bankrupt and he's being open and honest with me about it. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you, but maybe you're just extremely honest. Figure out what that actually is for you. Again, it doesn't have to be revolutionary, but
Yeah.
that's what really attracts people. If you think about social media, there's the last data point that I read, and I think this was probably 4 months ago at this point, was that there was like 6 billion or something like that people on social media, 5 or 6 billion people. That's 90%, 95% of the world population is literally on social media. It's ridiculous. So with that many people on social media, everyone is out there trying to get attention. Everyone is posting, and that's what's led to the American or just worldwide squirrel brain of a very short attention spans. So if you can be different and stand out in a 5, 10, 15, 20 second quick little clip or photo, or just like maybe you post really unique motivational quotes or whatever, then that'll be the thing that attracts people to want to follow you as opposed to the next individual. Content
Right.
creation is one of the biggest things most people struggle with. And I always tell
Yeah.
people if you're just as authentic as you possibly can be, then it's never going to feel like work. Burnout is a real thing, not as just an entrepreneur, but especially on social media, since you have to do it every single day from now until all of eternity. So that's a big task, right? It's a big thing to think about when you're first getting started and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be in this business for 20 years. You're telling me I gotta do it once a day for 20 years? Maybe not once a day, every day for 20 years. Like I don't do the weekends, but it has to be very consistent. So you're always having
Mm,
to come up with new stuff. And so if you're trying to be anything other than yourself, it's not going to come off authentically. So you're not going to attract the right people that actually want to invest and partner with you anyway. And then you're going to get burned out real quick because you're always
right.
having to think about and do things in a way that you don't normally.
I love
Um,
that. Yeah. I love what you're saying about find a way to be unique. And it's really true. And we see this on deals that we raise for as well. The more there's a uniqueness to that deal, the easier it is to raise money for that deal.
mhm.
If it's a same old deal like everyone else, like it's hardest to raise money for, especially in today's market. And not only that, but one of the things that you just mentioned, by positioning your raise unique in, and I don't know if you call it perpetual income or not, but basically allowing an investor to have true passive income and not every 3 to 5 years, but just ongoing, allows you to get money at a cheaper rate than most syndicators who's having to give up 70, 80, sometimes 90% of the equity because it's the same old syndication deal that everyone else is using. And it reminds me of another operator that I know. His uniqueness is that he targets specifically the Christian community, and he built this whole business model where whenever he buys an apartment complex, he will find a local church that's near that complex and have the church adopt the complex. And so the church members would go to the complex, pray for the people, have invite those tenants to like different church activities for family, for kids. And in exchange, the income that he generates from the cash flow that he generates from that complex, he donate a percentage of that to that church. And so it's there's this like this ecosystem where the church and the community is working hand in hand.
Yeah.
And he's able to raise money like, oh my, super cheap. It's I don't remember the exact amount, but it's something to the effect of an I think an 8 or 10 pref on the front end and a 10% kicker on the back end. That's it. Um,
Yeah.
and so being unique not only make the raising easier, but also allows you to attract a different types of audience that a lot of syndicators are not going after, and therefore you're able to get your money cheaper as well. So, really good point. Thank you so much, Josh. All right, we're gonna wrap up our interview portion of our show today for our podcast, and then we'll open up for Q&A here in just a little bit. But before we wrap this part up, for the folks that wants to learn with you, connect with you, invest with you, partner with you, like where would you like to send them?
For anyone wanting to learn more about what we do, you can go check out our website at ferraricapital.com. All of our social media profiles are there. That's where you'll see me posting pretty consistently, pretty regularly. Get to stay up to date with our story. Our podcast is on there, information about the mastermind. We have a ton of free resources there. So I would say just go check out the website.
Very cool. And just for fun, are you related to the Ferrari family at all?
I've never done the backtracking to actually find that out, and maybe it's something that I should do at this point at 27 years old. But I wasn't born with the wealth that came from the name. Let's put it that way. My grandfather came over from Italy at when he was like a teenager, so I think that makes me what second generation American or Italian
Okay.
or I don't know how that works, but something like that.
Very cool. Josh, thank you so much for doing this interview with me today. Really been an honor and yeah, a huge pleasure to have you on our show today. Thank you so much.